All right, let's get started. And we are here to tell you how to plan and polish your school branding. All right, today's presenters, here's a good look at her. I'm going to back off here. And I'm Jay Cooper, and I'm previously communications specialist for a large urban school district. Now I'm marketing manager and content strategist for SchoolNow. Josephine, our guest presenter today. She's an award-winning school communicator who leads strategic marketing and communications at Cincinnati Country Day School. And she's got over a decade of experience in school communications, including a national consulting firm and experience on the public side of things. So public and private school experience makes her very well-rounded. Just so you know, you'll have some free downloads coming your way. A branding survey and a school communications planning guide. We'll give you more information on that in just a bit. And our agenda for the day, very quickly, is building a brand foundation. We'll also show you how to define and design your school brand, and then putting your brand to work, where Josephine has brings a lot of her insights into play. Okay, changing or polishing your brand is really a rare opportunity. It doesn't come along too often. It really shouldn't come along too often. So you need to determine whether you're going to overhaul or tweak your brand. Brands evolved, yours should too, and so what to do when considering changing your brand, or when to consider changing your brand. Maybe there's some major changes or initiative in your district or at your school. Maybe there's some big projects being planned, physical plant renovations, a new school, a new headquarters, maybe a new website. This often goes hand in hand. School districts often come to us when they're redoing their website, take advantage of this opportunity. And another time to consider changing your brand is maybe when it's just weak or just plain bad. So I'm not here to judge, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But let's just say when you choose a branding partner, you should choose them wisely. So let's start in. Let's see who we got. We got PR communications. We got IT admin, which affects district administration, Brandy and Crimson. And we've got the web and social media specialist, Lauren Hunt, another IT and Divya, and then a superintendent. So we got a really good representation. Thanks for letting us know, guys, what you're up to. So building a brand foundation. Forming a branding team is key, and we just outlined those different roles and job descriptions and people on board. Make sure it's well-rounded. Decision making on branding can be a subjective experience, but if you follow these steps, you got a communications lead, you've got a superintendent or principal, maybe a school board member. It's important that you gather support and gain momentum. You should audit your existing brand is a next step. Where is it being used? How is it being used? What are some abuses and modifications? And Josephine will get into that. People have been known to take the school brands into their own hands, so to speak, and do their own little version of it. And that's really not good for brand consistency. Third step is survey your audience. This includes your students, staff, and parents. We've got a quick and effective way for you to do that. It's a great way to gain insights and perspectives. And that's our first download. You can copy this. By the way, we'll send you copies of all these links, and also a copy of this webinar will be available. But that's where you can find a branding survey. It's like a one-pager, maybe 1.5 pages. It's a great way to gain insights and then create that brand that looks great. So make sure you download that after the presentation. And we'll repeat that URL at the very end. So brand identity is a rare chance to make an accurate and current and really forward-thinking statement about your district or school. All right, defining and designing your school brand. What contributes to your school brand? course, it's really your school's personality and the culture and the values, and it should address the school mission and really speak and articulate the voice. You already have a brand, whether you know it or not. It's all based on your reputation, history. It could be about academics and various programs. Maybe you have a reputation for a certain program in your district or school. In student development. Do you do a good job of developing your students and your alumni? Your alumni is instrumental in help distinguishing your brand. And what could distinguish your brand? The future, really. It can play a big role in shaping your school brand. And that's what this planning and polishing process is all about. You could have some great things in the offing coming up. And so things like physical plant programs, bond levies, referendums, your brand should be aspirational. In other words, what do you really want your school, how you want your school to be perceived? It's more than just a new logo. Your brand derives from your messaging, and it really is your underlying value proposition. Be careful about the language used in your content. Makes your school community relate to your school. And again, aspirational. It should inspire and persuade and motivate and really make the school community want to engage with you. Some key visual design elements, concepts, typography, logos, color schemes and palettes, sub-brands. Rare is the chance really for you to create a new scheme. Current school colors, for example, you might be locked in on those. But this can be executed in a fresh new way. And some of those ways, obviously, digital executions are really driving the brand buzz. That's how most people are going to interact with your school brand. Your school website is obviously, because of the digital emphasis on your branding, that's really the core of your communications. It's really the official home of all your school and district info. So that's got to be buttoned down, really buttoned down. So you should have a school branding style guide. Many schools do, many schools don't. It's a visual guide that shows examples of various media, and it's often created by a design partner, but oftentimes it rests on the shoulders of the communications lead at the school. School branding style guide provides the rules that everyone needs to follow. They'll be using the brand. Obviously, you have multiple schools within the district. Each school should have access to that branding guide, and it encompasses digital and non-digital executions. So what goes into a style guide? The artwork, the typographic usage, editorial and messaging style. So not everybody's a great communicator, a great writer, and sometimes you provide some guidelines or guidelines required for those creating the content. And then, of course, color scheme and palette, and then how to use certain images and recommendations. A design vendor checklist. If you're working with an outside vendor on helping with your brand, make sure they're focused on schools. There are some overused and mediocre designs out there. You want to avoid those. Make sure you get your cost estimates up front, and that relates back to the scope of work. And just a quick look at the logos, primary design, district level, creating a logo family. It's all got to work. It's all got to work together. Typography, same way. You're going to have primary fonts, secondary fonts, and this hierarchy. You don't want the various schools or various content creators in your district to vary from those. Images, self-explanatory there. Artwork, editorial messaging style, and your color scheme, your palette. So let's talk now about putting your brand to work. And at this point, I want to bring in Josephine McKenrick. She's the communications lead, strategic marketing and communications at Cincinnati Country Day School. Josephine.
Thanks, Jay. Can everyone hear me okay? If you can't, Jay, let me know. And also, just to to get going with this, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and Jay and I can answer them throughout. I see that we have a group of people that are in all different roles. So for some of you, some of these tips and some of the information I'll pass along to you will be redundant. Hopefully you get at least one takeaway from it. And for some of you, this could be a lot. But what I want to tell you from the jump is we work in a really niche industry, depending on how you like to pronounce it. And so contact me, please. Find me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, if you need help, if you need a mentor, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to do it. And we just all have to support each other in this work because it's really important. So I think, I think the more important thing, and Jay, if you want to move along to the next slide, when we talk about communications, the big thing with branding is that we need to make sure that we stay away from rogue brand execution. And the way to do that is to remember that communication is everyone's job. So I know some of us, again, looking at this list of people who's participating, it's not just school communicators who are in charge of successful school communications. So keeping that thought in mind, I think it's really important to make sure your logo is available to people that you trust and that you train those people. For example, at Country Day, I have the logo available to all of our faculty and staff. Now, it's taken years to train them of where it is, how to use it, but to just keep that steady drumbeat of that availability is really important. Because if you don't make it available to them in some capacity, they will go to Google and they will say like, well, our mascot's a badger, so this is a picture of a badger. It's close enough to our logo, and so I think it will work. And so you get a lot of people that will just go rogue with that. So if you need, again, suggestions on how to make your branding available to your faculty staff, happy to help. I think it's a really big part of it is empowering everyone in your organization, but remembering you are the expert. So for those of you in this, webinar that are the communications point person, you are the school's expert in communications, period, end stop. So you might have a teacher who says, well, I like to use the logo this way. If in your gut that doesn't feel right, or it's just flat out not right, you are the expert. So be nice about it, of course, but just making sure that, you make sure your brand's available to them as well. And this is hopefully not a new tip for any of you, but if you don't have it already or know about it already, Canva for Education is free. If you're not using it in your district, if you're not using it in your school, it's free for all faculty, staff. It's free for all students. So Canva for Education is a great way. You can upload your branding standards and guides, your colors, your marks, everything into Canva. So then anyone in your institution can access those. So then when next time someone's making a flyer, they choose from your school colors. You already have them all loaded in there. It's really an easy way. And it's made a big difference here at Country Day for teachers creating flyers and stuff like that for their events. I think one thing here is important, and Jay talked about this, of having at least a branding one-pager. If you don't have a whole guide, a one-pager to point people to. I can't tell you how many times I email that to people, and that's really important. So, key questions here to ask yourself. This is something you guys can read through these, but I think it's important that you consistently present your school community with the same tagline and logo. This is not a time to use ChatGPT to create different ways of presenting who you are. The differentiators is big. Think about the things. What makes your school district different? What makes your school district special? What makes your school stand out from other schools? And making sure that you're talking about them enough. Again, back to the logo, access, and application. And ultimately with your branding, what's our goal? Is it raising awareness? And that's primarily what it is. Is it engaging your community? So just kind of thinking around those things as well. And next slide, Jay. I think, so from here in executing your brand, what we need now is it's everywhere. And this is hard. A lot of us are 1, 2, 3 person teams, or I see a lot of you, it's not even your primary role. It's the only way that your school district is able to even fit communications in somewhere. So I applaud you for that. But, I think we need to make sure that we're across as many different mediums as we can. We have a mobile app here at Country Day. I will be sunsetting it. It's not providing a lot of value, and we're a 2-person team. We can't regulate it all the time, and we don't have a lot of downloads for it, so I'm getting rid of it. That's okay. We're getting bigger bang from our buck in other places. Social media, if you're not on social media now, I am jealous of you, but you're also living under a rock. So, making sure you're integrating properly there. Same with your non-digital communications, making sure all of those things are consistent with your branding. Consistency is key in your language and social media, in your language with key messaging. You know, if you can create key messages, great, because they make sure everyone's singing from the same hymn book, sticks to the facts, you know, keeps people from winging it. Key messaging can be consistent for one school year, for one initiative. So that consistency piece is big. Same with a communications plan. So many people say you have to create a communications plan. Let me tell you, I do not have time to create a communications plan. I'm in the trenches doing stuff all the time. When I worked with clients, I always helped them create a communications plan because it was easier to do it more as a consultant than it is in the trenches. But if it works for you, do it. If not, just make sure you're consistent in the delivery of your communications.
Josephine, it's almost as if the time you would spend putting a plan together would be better spent actually executing. Is that your experience?
That is absolutely right. And that's the problem. Like, so much is coming at us. We're living in a day and age where there's so much content. There's so much need. Our parents are needy. Like, we're working with their children. Their money, their two most important things in their lives, probably, you know. So I think we need to make sure that we're just maximizing our efforts in order to maximize the efforts of the school and our institution. I think some things to just accept right now in the safe space of this webinar, that everyone in your organization is responsible for communications. I said this before, I can't say it enough. It's not just your job. And part of that with our branding is making sure people are comfortable with it, have access to it, because you have more control than ever over your message now. I mean, there's so many ways that we can get our messaging out. We just went through all the different platforms that are available to you. This one's big. The talk about finances. It can be awkward. It shouldn't be. Depending on public or private, every school needs to talk about funding in some way, whether that's applauding your donors, talking about funding needs, talking to taxpayers about, you know, the different ways that funds are allocated. When it comes time, if you're in a state like Ohio, which is where I am, we have a really funky funding model, and we have to go back to our taxpayers every 2 to 3 years at our public schools. So if all of a sudden you're hitting them with financial information, they'll be like, what? Where's this coming from? So making sure you keep that constant conversation about finances. For some reason, people tend to think that schools are not always transparent about that. They don't realize that there are indeed laws around that and regulations, and that we're audited regularly. So I think that's big. And being in multiple mediums at a time, you want to be able to maximize these. Don't dive in everywhere. You know, pick the ones that you're good at, pick the ones that you like, and pick the ones that are most effective. But making sure that your branding is the same across all will definitely help to make sure that there's no message confusion, and that it just feels better for both the consumer and for your institution. And then, speaking of social media, it is not a bulletin board, a place for politics, or a healthy or productive location for back and forth battles. So let me talk a little bit more about that. Social media is really big for your brand. It's so easy. Everyone's on it. We all doom scroll. I mean, you can't, maybe not all of us. If you don't, again, I'm very jealous, but, you know, it's not a bulletin board. You're going to hear maybe a fellow administrator or a teacher say, can you put this flyer up about blah, 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 blah? Don't. There are other ways that you can put that and communicate that to your public or to your community, whether that's an e-newsletter, something that's more effective. Politics, don't even get into it. There's no reason for it. No one is going to win there. I mean, it's not even going to be a healthy place for it. And the back and forth, this is about comments. I mean, you'll get those people, those trolls that will just jump on and get into your comments. Do everything you can to keep from responding. If there's superintendents on this, I'm talking to you, because a lot of times from superintendents, they want to say like, wait, but that's not true. I'm going to get in there. Don't do it. Don't let your board members do it. You guys don't do it. If anything, you can create a group of key communicators or ambassadors, parents that you trust, not teachers, not administrators, not board members, parents that you trust that can go online and kind of be your digital warriors and say, hey, wait, that fact about our school, that's not a fact at all. This is really the fact over here. It should not be the school advocating for itself in the comments section. The school will lose. People get nasty. It's not great. Because social media ultimately is our tool for branding. It's our tool to brand ourselves and tell your school's positive story. And so that's not a place that we want people to be running away with a negative narrative.
Yeah, and social media it's so easy to escalate because people take it so personally, and as a representative of a school or a district, you need to be certain that you refrain from that, and don't escalate certainly anything negative at all. And so it's important. We actually have somebody raising their hand, and let's see what she has to ask. Kelsey. Let's see. Kelsey, you have a question? Why don't you drop it in the chat, drop it in the chat window, Kelsey. But and that would be best. That would be best, I think, for us to grab it that way. But yeah, I think social media and using the social media to polish your brand or establish your brand is going to become more critical, as that's the main way that many schools, social media and others, like school feeds. I know a lot of schools and districts have their own feeds. And so we've got, oh, that was an accident. Oh, okay. Thanks, Kelsey. All right. So I'm not the only one who presses the wrong buttons around here. Go ahead, Josephine.
Yeah, so I mean, just back to that. And if you ever, and again, I know we're working quickly, we have a million things to do. Sometimes we're working in isolation, but if you ever come to a point with anything on social media or any of this, I mean, I say, trust your gut. Again, you are the expert. And if you want someone else to look at it, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you with any of that. And I think here, just a few things, just tips to take away for you here is that, for me, I think your must-haves when it comes to branding is that, like I said before, that branding one-pager, something that you can send to people and say, here are our colors, here's our typefaces, here's all of this. It can be one page. If you need examples for longer ones, I have those. If you want an example of shorter ones, those too. And then I think the well-curated social media platform, this might go without saying considering it's 2024, but a lot of times we will have school leaders or even overzealous school communicators who are like, I want to be everywhere. You're just watering down, unless you have somebody who's totally dedicated to social media and that's all they do. Even that would be a strain. I still can't figure out how to make TikTok even be relevant for our community. So I don't. And not only that, but when you think about adding something, what am I sunsetting? Because I don't have capacity for more. So it has to, just make sure that you're really maximizing your time. And then a way to communicate with all stakeholders. So again, whether you're public, private, need to go to the ballot or not, or you just need to interact with your community on a regular basis, make sure that you have one way to communicate with all stakeholders, and chances are it's still a mailer. Again, I know it's 2024, but mailers are still the most effective way to reach every household in your community, whether that is a public school district or a private school. So, I would say those are your must-haves throughout the year. And then your things to do here, annual website audit. Jay mentioned this earlier. Your website is your hub of communication. So make sure you go through it at least once a year to see, is it aligning with our brand? Is this the story that we want to tell? Are these pictures who we are? Communication audit every 2 to 3 years, going through all of your communication. Does it align? Does it align to our brand? Does it align to our messaging? And these are two things. If you want help with these, again, reach out. I would be happy to help, or at least point you in a direction or show you examples of things I've done in the past with these two at least. Regularly communicate with all stakeholders. Please do that. I mean, it comes time to be on the ballot or ask for money or fund something or participate. You want to make sure it's not coming out of the blue. And then reviewing your social media analytics. What's actually working for you? What actually aligns with your brand story? What are, kind of where are you getting the biggest bang for your buck there? So I think those are the things that you should absolutely look at doing.
Now's the time as we approach 30 minutes, and we like to get you back to work. Now's the time to enter some questions if you have them. Your brand identity is really a rare chance to make an accurate, forward-thinking statement. So set those expectations. Use the brand to set those expectations. And again, if you have any questions, I've got some URLs I want to share with you. And then before you say goodbye, there's a quick survey that's going to pop up about our webinar. But again, if you want a school branding survey, this is a pretty cool tool you can use to kind of get the process started, take stock of, even if you're not in the market for a new school brand. It's a good little discipline. It's ask the key questions. I think you need to really understand where you want to be with your brand. And then the school communications planning guide is a much broader swipe and branding, of course, is part of that. But school communications planning guide gets into website planning and messaging planning and social media and mobile apps and things like that. So another cool download from SchoolNow that you can use. And then finally, you can always go to our blog, the SchoolNow blog. It's the schoolnow.com/blog. There's articles, and you just type in search and in branding. There's some articles around that. There's a really good one on personalizing your school branding you might want to check out. So again, any questions, you can be certain to follow up separately with me or Josephine. Thank you, Josephine, for presenting today. And if you would take a moment to complete a brief post-webinar survey, it's like 5 questions, and everybody can get back to work. So again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jack.